called Motherhood. Um, I am a single mom, and I am a mother to a toddler. Um, I had the utmost difficult pregnancy. I was pregnant at 19 years old. Um, I was in an abusive relationship with the father of my child, and when I finally decided to leave, I realized that I was pregnant. And um, when I went to the prenatal office, I was a month into my pregnancy. Um, but I was heartbroken because I had loved this person and I was in love with this person and I was ready to be a family, and he made it very clear that he wasn't going to be around. And in fact that he wanted to take me to the hospital so I could get an abortion. And I told him, no, I'm gonna have this baby and there's nothing you can do about it. I'm not going to get an abortion, especially because a month into my pregnancy, the baby wasn't like, he was a baby. He was growing into a baby, and I couldn't do it. I didn't have the heart to, And I was happy. I was too happy to have this baby. I was already picking out names, and I was already just, ready to have this. I was ready to be a mom, and I had desired a family, and so when I realized that I was going to have a family, I was keeping this child. There was nothing that was going to change my mind. And but I had a difficult pregnancy. I dealt with morning sickness. I had the flu. I almost died when I was pregnant. When I showed up to the hospital, I was so far along that I think I was 36, and then at the hospital I transitioned to 37 weeks. I had a low pulse when I showed up. I had low oxygen. I was dehydrated. They hooked me up to an oxygen machine. They kept me for 5 days. I think it was 5 days. It was a long time. And the baby's heartbeat was racing. He was I was contracting. I think he was stressed out because I was, dehydrated. My oxygen was low. My pulse was low, so he was stressed out. They hooked my belly up to this heart monitor to track him. They checked me to see how dilated I was. I wasn't dilated. I think I was like 1 centimeter. And I just had a very difficult pregnancy. I remember, I didn't have a license. I didn't have a car. I was working at this daycare, and I was making $13.50 full time. And I wasn't getting much money, and all of a sudden I'm having a baby and I'm gonna be a single mom. So my world was rocked. It was rocked, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was scared because this baby is gonna be relying on me, and he's gonna be in my pockets, and I'm on a fixed, my income is small, so I didn't know what I was gonna be doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what a mother looked like, and I would question, am I going to be a good mother? Am I capable of loving this baby? How is he going to respond when he knows that his father didn't want to be around? I was just thinking and thinking and thinking, and that was the problem. I was thinking so many things, and I remember when I would go to the prenatal appointments and wanting a family, and wanting to have a family, wanting to be in a family, and I would see these women. They had their family, and the father was happy to welcome the baby. The father would be there at the prenatal appointments, and with me being black, and I was a single mom. I was 19 years old when I got pregnant. I remember my OBGYN, my first OBGYN, was very standoffish towards me. And then when he would get the next patient, a lady, she was white, and her husband would be there. He was very different towards her. He was very attentive towards her, and I wasn't comfortable. I remember telling my mother I'm ready to switch because this is just so valuable to me, and when I have this baby, when I'm in labor, I don't want, because I would tell him things and then it would just be discarded. So when I'm in labor, I don't want to be telling you things and then you just discard it, and then something's wrong, and then something happens to me or the baby. So I didn't trust him, and I switched doctors, and I went to, it was a family friend. he's a OBGYN, and I know that his I think sister-in-law, she delivered my mom's baby, my little brother. So yeah, so I decided to go to their family. I knew this lady, you know, she was a family friend. I remember her from when I was a child, and I was very comfortable, and so, and I had a good labor. It went well, you know, there was nothing wrong. I did get a first-degree tear, but yeah, I remember like just looking at everybody else, and everyone had their family, and I was like the odd one out. And you know, I don't know, I never was like really big on like fitting into stereotypes, black stereotypes, but you know, I felt like a stereotype when the man was treating me the way he did. And you know, I was heartbroken, but I remember that when I held my son and he handed my son to me, I was crying. Tears had fell down my eyes, and I shot this video a couple of times because I was starting to get emotional. I was about to start crying again, remembering this story. But when they handed my son to me and he was screaming, and he was so small, he was 7 pounds, I was so happy. I was over the moon, and I loved him. There was no question, do I love? No, I loved him. And I would sing to him. I would sing to him, and I would hold him, and we would just stare at each other. And I was just figuring him out, and he would be trying to figure me out. And I just grew so protective. Like, it was like I would wonder when I was pregnant, am I going to be a good mother? When I was holding him, I became a mother. And you know, it came so natural, and I became a good mother. I was a really good mother to my son. And as a single mom, you know, there are times where I'm running off empty, like there's no gas in my tank. There's times where we don't have money, you know, there's a lot of times where I would have to put him in an Uber, you know, because I don't have a car, and you know, we don't have money. So then his birthday would come around and Christmas would come around. I would find a way to get money for my son. I didn't care. There was nothing that was going to stop me. If I couldn't afford to get a cake, I would bake a cake. I baked a cake for him when he turned 2. When it came down to getting him toys, I found a way to have money to buy him toys, to put presents under the tree, to, you know, give him these birthday gifts. I took him out for his first birthday. I couldn't give him a big party because I couldn't afford it, but I took him out for his first birthday, and I made it seem like everything was just dandy, like he wouldn't have known that we're struggling. And I make sure, as a single mother, I paint this pretty picture for him that, you know, he just doesn't know that, you know, reality. And even when it comes down to people, like family members, I don't let anyone distort my picture. I want him to know that everything is good, that we are fine. We don't have all this money, we don't have a car, but we are still good, and it's all that matters. And even though like I am struggling and, you know, I'm going through it, I don't reflect that towards him. I show up loving, and I show up for him every single day. I make sure he has stuff. I make sure he's being treated well. And when it comes down, even the paternal family, you know, the father's family, I even said to them, like, no one, not even you guys, are gonna distort my son, like my picture that I painted for my son. I work hard, and other people may not feel that way because, you know, just the way my situation is, but I work hard. You know, sometimes like I can envision like me, and it's just like I'm covering my son, and like all these arrows are just being shot at me, and I will stand in front of him to make sure that I block every single arrow that comes his way, and that he doesn't get harmed, you know. So I protect him. And you know, my motherhood journey, this picture is very chaotic, but it's also really good. It's really pretty to me. It's very pretty, but it's very chaotic. And but that's my perception of my single motherhood journey. And yeah, so I hope that you like my reasoning and my muse behind my picture. I really like this picture. Yeah, so that's it.